Okay, so I guess we can start. So hi everyone from all over the globe. Good morning, good afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Thank you very much for joining. And I'm proud to present Rosetta version 5.5. This is the last non-major release before we will be releasing version 6, which will come out later on this year. So first of all, throughout the session, if you have any questions, feel free to chat, to add them to the chat. I'll try to relate to them throughout the session. Otherwise, either at the end of it, and in any case, feel free to send questions also later on by email or even pick up the phone. So I'm available. So beyond the features, we were going to see some of the highlights of the features that came through in 5.5. And beyond the actual features, there was quite a big focus in this release in 5.5 to stabilize the system, reduce the number of defects, update the software, improve the testing environment. So in addition to the features which you'll be getting, then hopefully you will enjoy also the improvement in the stability of the system. So we'll take a quick look at the agenda. Okay, so we'll actually start from user experience this time, which isn't what we usually do, but simply because we made changes into the administration UI. And we're going to be seeing the administration UI throughout the session, so I might as well describe the changes we've done beforehand, and then we'll be able to see the examples throughout. So after that, we'll see a change in the session expiration warning. Those are in the user experience area. We'll then move on to the infrastructure changes, where we have done, again, amongst other upgrades, we've done upgrade to the Tomcat. We'll talk a bit about GDPR. Preservation area, then two of the highlights there is the improvements in custom Fixity and repository task plugin enhancements. In the data management area, we have added support for the handle persistent identifier and other PIs, other persistent identifiers. We defined the export directory to be set per institution. Itemized sets can be created on all levels, and we'll see an important cleanup job of deleted OAI records. Many of these came through from customers through the ideas exchange, and will hopefully facilitate the flows which we've been working on up to now. And in the delivery, we have the IE viewer, which was improved in 5.4. And we now added the support for metadata creation with XSL, which is a capability which exists beforehand. We now combined it with the new IE viewer. Okay, so we'll start. We'll first take a look at the administration menu UI. We'll take a glimpse. So can you see my browser now, just to make sure that you're not still looking at the PowerPoint? Yes. And someone here wrote that he doesn't have audio, but I think others do have. So that's probably a specific issue of yours. So I'm sorry about that. I will send a recording afterwards in any case. Okay, so as you can see here, this is the initial entry to the administration UI. We have here, this is a part of our ongoing attempt to make Rosetta more accessible, more easy to use. I guess this area, administration UI, the improvement here will be mainly useful for new users who are coming in and unfamiliar with the system, but I'm sure that it will make life easier for anyone who has been using the system. So we have a flat layout of the administration UI with an easy search option, which you can see here. You search in, and then it narrows down the list. Okay, so slightly more advanced and accessible than what we had up to now. And you can see that there is now a division here between the system configuration and the repository configuration, mainly just for the clarification of the entire administration UI. And just a call out to customers, we do have the regular routes of the ideas exchange and the work groups where we get features coming through, which are usually focused on new features, but sometimes, and many of the times, what really affects your day-to-day work is accessibility of the system. So this is really a first step, and I encourage you to send out any additional areas where you think and what you think should be changed in the accessibility and the user experience. Now, in addition, so that's the administration UI. We have added also a session expiration warning, where you get 60 seconds a notice before at the end of the session timeout, which enables you to continue the session. I'll just show you. I won't show obviously the entire timeout now. We might actually get to see it towards the end of the session. But we have the general parameter. Session. So, the delivery. Okay, so we have the embedded note session timeout, which here can be defined to how many seconds you'd like the timeout to be. So that was additional, and that is a feature which exists in some of the other products in Expiration, and now Rosetta has that too. So those are the two highlights which we added in the user experience, together with several others. And now we'll talk a bit about infrastructure changes that have come through in 5.5. So we have upgraded Tomcat, the Java servlet was upgraded to version 8.5. So this is part of our constant effort of keeping Rosetta up to date with the latest software versions. And these upgrades also come together with examining the security checks which are required for all these different versions, which are also checked. So that is only one of the updates coming through. And the next issue which has come through in the infrastructure is GDPR. So just a brief word on GDPR for whoever isn't familiar. So as of May 25th, which is in fact this coming Friday, all organizations working with the personal data of EU citizens will need to be GDPR compliant. And just so you don't sort of, anyone who isn't in the EU, don't start dozing off. It is important for you too, and I'll explain in a minute. So Expiration has been working on creating resources and documents that will help our customers prepare for the GDPR, which is addendum has been sent out a while ago. So if we just take a quick look here. An example we have here, in the Knowledge Center, we have a list of all the products. If we open the Rosetta one, we get detailed documentation describing how Rosetta will allow you to be compliant with GDPR. You have here a section which describes the different sections of GDPR, the requirements of the GDPR, and describes how it can be applicable with Rosetta. It defines where the personal data, which personal data is kept in Rosetta, and writer erasure, which is slightly more complex in Rosetta as an on-premise solution, which maintains personal information of the producers as part of the provenance. The provenance, as you all know, is something which can't be erased, even if it's personal data, which is something which needs to be tracked always. So this is acceptable from the GDPR point of view, and this has been This has been clarified with the legal advisors. So this is all described here in detail. So Rosetta has been strictly assessed, similar to other Ex Libris products, for the general data protection regulation, and we had some developments. We defined several developments in that process which need to be done in order to comply with a standard, with a strict standard. And I'll show you in a second which development was done in 5.5. But I think for all customers who aren't EU institutions, you're probably asking yourselves why you need to know about this. But we believe that this is an important effort which should put minds at rest for any institution working with patrons and content producers, as you're storing the personal data, and this is obviously a responsibility which you'd like to know which has been assessed to make sure that there aren't any breaches. So this is an effort, in fact, which is important globally. So 5.5 includes a development which allows institutions to anonymize a delivered METS file. So this is not sure everyone is familiar with this feature, which has existed for quite some time, but for various integration scenarios, we added in the past the capability to deliver the actual METS file, which includes personal information on the producer. So this now can be anonymized with institutions. So institutions can decide that it is interested in delivering this information for integration reasons, but it could also anonymize the data. So if we take, for example, this image over here, the IE which is being presented here, and we add the suffix of BPS func equals METS. So this gives us the METS file. And as you can see in the METS file, we have here, this is obviously mock data, but in theory you'd have here personal data including address, telephone number, any other information which is maintained in the which is saved as provenance data in the METS file, producer ID, authoritative name, first name, which is everything is defined as personal data from the GDPR point of view, obviously, and producer agent. So we have we now have an administration. We have a general parameter called anonymized METS. We have that under delivery. Anonymized METS. Okay, the METS delivery will show the producer info section. We set this to true. Oh, sorry. Set this to true. Update. If we then refresh this information, okay, so we have no producer agent or producer personal information currently being published in this delivered METS file. So this, in a way, closes all the options and gives full control for the staff of the institution over the personal data. So back to our slide. Okay, so in the preservation area, we have made enhancements, quite a few enhancements for the custom Fixity. So custom Fixity mainly can now be deposited as part of a CSV and baggets, which are very common methods, and they didn't support this up to now. In addition to the existing METS deposit. So in order to use a custom Fixity, the customers can add a record. We'll see this to the Fixity type code table. Mapping the Fixity algorithm to custom Fixity plugin name. So the code table, it's now basically a centralized location for mapping the custom Fixity algorithms. Not the source is this table, and not the actual content CSV or the content in the CSV. So this makes it much more organized and much easier to manage. And then the custom Fixity types, as we'll see, are searchable and available in checksum and add representation checksum tasks. So in addition, the custom Fixity value is also supported by the find duplicates job. So find duplicates can be based also on the custom Fixity. So we'll first take a look at the plugin. So we have here, obviously, we have here the custom Fixity plugin, which is defined, which was defined by the customer or embedded. So here we have the custom Fixity plugin. So here we have the name. We have custom Fixity SHA 512, which isn't out of the box. Thanks to ETH. And we have the and the algorithm is SHA 512. We have embedded 256. So this we have so the custom Fixity here is this additional algorithm. So if we then go to the code tables, and we go to the Fixity types, so here I've added ahead of time. I've added the this plugin. So we have the name of the plugin and the algorithm. So here we have a centralized area where we've had the out-of-the-box ones, but now we can add the custom ones too here to this table. So this is where the centralized management of all the different Fixities, custom and embedded, is from now on. So if we do a quick example of the deposit. We go, for example, to Rosetta producer. We run a staff deposit of a CSV. So we do a CSV upload here. Take a quick glimpse at the CSV beforehand. This is a CSV, and as you can see here, we have the SHA 512. Okay, this is a new value on the file level with the values. Right, so this is what I'm going to be adding, uploading now. So here I'm adding the streams. Here I'm adding the CSV, which we just saw. Post activity. Submit deposit. Okay, this is the custom Fixity SIP, which we just added. If we then go back into the system,
no.
Move it over to the send it over to the PEP.
So did you say that on Friday?
So just if someone can mute himself, that would be great. Thank you. So so that's it. So now we should have this SIP back in the permanent now.
So yeah. So let's see. So Chad's meeting is at 1:30. So we were going to move that. Okay. And I think
guys, let me just see how I can.
Somebody said he said you had it at sometime.
Yeah, I can mute whoever we can hear.
The email from me this morning is that the afternoon is the 1, 2.
There, sorry, it's not personal. Okay. So now if we then let's find a deposit in the permanent. Okay, we look at the editor. We have 2 IEs coming through. Let's look at the DNX values. Next file, Fixity, just one moment. Oh, sorry, in the file, metadata, DNX, file, Fixity. Okay, and here we have SHA 512. Okay, so we now have the populated. We have the new with the new Fixity value, and now if we then we can then search for that specific for the specific SHA for the specific algorithm, which has now been indexed. We can search here for SHA 512. Okay, 512. Say, for example, just it's not empty. Search, and there we go. And then we have our new IEs coming through. So that was the main addition coming through on the improved custom Fixity. And let's move back to the slide. The next feature coming through in the preservation is the repository task plugin, which runs now on which can run on all levels. So we've extended the repository task plugin interface. To run at up to now it ran on the IE level. So now we can run also on the representation or the FIRE level. This clearly allows institutions further flexibility in the repository management, so they can make changes according to the specific characteristics of files or representations, and not just IEs. I won't show an example of this now because we'll see something similar in a minute. But in general, just you can see the task chains. If we have the task chain, so here we have the option of defining IE file or representation, and obviously the plugin which is associated with the task also needs to be defined to be on that specific level, so these have to be aligned. Okay. So handle persistent identifier support. As most of you probably know, handle is a registry assigning persistent identifiers or handles to information resources. So institutions, similarly to what you can sort of see here on the slide, institutions often manage multiple digital systems, each providing its own persistent identifiers, which creates difficulty for handling a unified reference to all the institution's digital inventory. So global PIs like Handle, they create a mapping of a single set of identifiers with the multiple and the various system identifiers. So what we have added support is, first of all, we have several identifiers which are supported out of the box, but also adding different types of any persistent identifier is very easy to do. So institutions can either deposit pre-generated handle identifiers or generate the identifiers in Rosetta using with a repository task plugin, which we'll show you in a second, using a sequence manager, which has been added. Okay, a very easy to use, intuitive sequence manager. So once the method which is done in Rosetta is that a batch file is then created with the mapping of the handles to the URLs in Rosetta, and the customer is then responsible at his convenient time or according to the timing to publish that batch file into the handle server or any other persistent identifier type which the institution is using. So if we take, for example, let's first go take a look at the at the administration, if you look at the plugins, we have persistent identifier plugins, and here we have one for the file level. So that we then, and similarly to task repository repository task plugins, the plugin automatically generates a task. So if you then go to the task chain, you then go into the task chains, and look for PI. So we have add file PI here, which, as you can see here, we can also define this task chain level to be either IE or rep or file, and a reference to the plugin, to the task which was created by the plugin, which is handle PI generator file. We'll now take a look at the sequence. We need to define the sequence, and we don't have to define the sequence. You can have your plugin to generate the IDs, as long as, again, it's aligned with the configuration in Rosetta. So if we take a look at the sequences, we have a PI sequence. Just a quick look. We have a start index, we have the end index, and we have a prefix which you'd like to have for the institution, which can all be defined however you desire, and differently for any other type of persistent identifier. So they're quite similarly to repository task plugin. There are several methods of running it. We'll now do it directly from an IE. So if we take this one, for example, we go to a specific file, and services, we have the add file PI task. Now here, what you can see here is first of all the sequence. Okay, we can define here the PI sequence which we saw before, and we have the object identifier type. And here we have quite a few. Some of them added, some of them out of the box. Some of them were added in the code tables. Check for duplicates. Checks if the handle already exists, which was created by the sequence manager. Otherwise, it try to regenerate it 3 times. And if it then fails, it probably means that there's something wrong with the sequence manager. So then aborts and moves on. Overwrite on existing. That means that if the file already has a handle, so it will override it with a new one generated by the sequence manager. And it's important though to mention, obviously, that if we have a handle PI on a specific file, and we then generate a different type, a URN or whatever, ARK, then they will create an additional object identifier. It will never override a different type of handle, of object identifier. So if we then submit this task, process add file completed for this file, and take a look at the DNX. Object identifier. And there we go. Okay, so we have here the handle, which was generated with our prefix, and the 10, which was generated by the sequence manager. So this now can, now if, for example, we run a process now, with the same task running on this IE, then it will override it because we've defined that it overrides, and it will increase the version of that IE. Another important issue to mention is that the handle is searchable. Okay, so have here handle. So here we could search a handle either on the file level or the IE or the rep level. So that's automatically indexed once we populate it. Okay, so that's the handle persistent identifier support. So we'll go back to our presentation. So in the data management area, we added export directory to be set per institution. So the institution code is now added to the path of all the export directories, enabling each institution to save data in a different location. So individual institutions can clean up their directories, for example, without affecting other institutions' content, without having the fear of sort of having an effect on that. So this is also came through from Ideas Exchange for just for making the flows more sensible. So we can just see that really briefly if we take a look at any SIP ID. If we then run export, so as you can see here, automatically gets the institution added to the directory other than the existing user name. The next feature which was added in the data management is the itemized sets, which are now can be created on all levels. Where up to now was only on IEs, and logical sets could be created on up to now on all the levels of IEs representations and files, and now also itemized sets can be created on each one of these levels. So I could show an example, but I think it's pretty straightforward. Similarly, you just have an option of marking which one of those options you'd like. Also an issue which came through from Ideas Exchange from customers who had the need to have that flexibility. So then move on to the additional features in data management, where we have an important feature which is the ability to clean up deleted OAI records, which has been filling up memory for customers. So we have the general cleanup job that we already had in administration, and you now have the option of defining it to delete also OAI records, which have been deleted but still exist in the database. And you can define, as you'll see in a second, the last modified. In other words, you can define a threshold to which ones you'd like to still keep in the system, and which ones you'd like to delete. So if we'll take a look at this OAI, for example. So here we have, if we look for deleted, as you can see here, we have one which is deleted, and it was deleted today, completely by chance. So we can go into the administration, and let's just keep this IE so we can take a look in a second and make sure that it was deleted. And now if we go into the administration, we go into the scheduled jobs management. Cleanup job. We then edit it. So you can see down here you have the option of clean deleted OAI PMH records older than, put it on 0 now because we wanted to delete something which was deleted today, so it won't appear in the OAI. apply, run now. Can I go back to this? Deleted. Look. It's taking a while. No, it seems to be an issue. It could be that perhaps because I just deleted it literally half an hour ago, so it could be there needs a threshold between the deletion time. But in any case, for the purposes of the institution, which will probably want to run this once every month, and it's also crucial if there is that extra half an hour where it isn't yet updated in the database for being deleted. So if we have time, which I don't think we have, then we can recheck it in a minute. Okay, so the last feature, I think, is also slightly slim on time. All right, is the delivery, where so we added support for transforming delivery metadata with XSL in the renewed general IE viewer, similar to the old viewer. So this is something which, a functionality which we had previously. We had only the XSL, which was complex and not very usable for some of the customers. So that's why we introduced the renewed IE viewer, which enabled you to do it only through the UI, configuring the metadata, and now you have the either option. So institutions like K-Leuven and others who use the metadata they actually use as links to external systems, and they have to have an XSL for that. They now have that option with the advantages of the renewed IE viewer. So the customers, they need to just we have the IE XSL, which is in the delivery XSL files. We have the file XSL and IE XSL, each one defining separately the file metadata and the IE metadata. And then if we take, for example, if we take the IE which we viewed earlier on, so now currently by default it's showing, you can see the title and description, and it has a layout which is the default one, this is defined in the UI. But if we add here if we add the suffix of metadata equals XSL, so there you can see we have even a different, slightly different layout, and we have different metadata. So this can be you can easily toggle between the two of them and have and enjoy both worlds according to your needs. So that is the last feature we're going to talk about today. Again, these are only some of the issues that came through from 5.5, but in a couple of minutes left, we'll just take a brief look at what we should expecting in release 6. So from the release plan point of view, so we're having a major release 6 coming through at the end of this year, version 6, and then we will expect to see 2, perhaps 3 releases in 2019. And then in 2020, we will probably see an additional minor one and another major one coming through. It depends on quite a few parameters in our work with the work groups and several other factors. But this is the expected schedule for Rosetta releases. Again, these are just some highlights coming through in Rosetta 6. We have many more things coming through. We're going to see some really some strategic features coming through the preservation. We're going to have some compliance with premise 3 features. A lot of work being done here by the work groups. We're going to have simplification of the preservation flow, and we're going to have an improved METS and DNX versioning support. In the digital asset management, we're going to add file level access rights, which is a very large change and significant change to the data model. Very complex change, which has come through from quite a few institutions for different needs. So this will be quite an exciting feature coming through. We're going to start adding features in the user preferences area, also to make the system much more friendly and personalized. We're going to have a nice, attractive mobile IE view, which we already have, but it's going to be much more responsive. And we're going to have a storage plugin for Google Cloud in addition to the Amazon S3 storage. So to expand the variety of storage options. In SAML, we're going to be adding, and this is also an issue which has come through from institutions, of having a support for an additional unique ID beyond the existing Rosetta user ID. And native SSL support, which for some institutions will actually they will not need to use a load balancer for that use anymore. We're going to have native SSL support also between Rosetta servers and for the external access to Rosetta. And performance improvements and many other exciting features which we're expecting to see. And 6, and this is for next year. We are looking into nested IEs, which is also a very strategic part of our compliance with Premise 3, another strategic feature which is currently being cooked up by the work groups, and many other features, as you can see here, which we are looking into in the preservation area, expanding the out-of-box extractors and other tools, and continue improving the preservation flow. We're waiting also for developments on IXIF. So we'll have extended support, so not only images will be able to be viewed in IIIF, and new APIs, improvements in the reports, and integrations with other systems, and additional support for user preferences, which will be coming through. A lot of it's based on the customer's feedback. So that's it for now. Thank you very much for joining. I hope to see many of you, if not all of you, in the RUG, in the Rosetta meeting event at LA in the Getty Institute. If not, then I'll be happy also to talk to you at any opportunity. If you have any questions, feel free to send them out. And that's it. So unless there's any questions. No. Okay, so feel free to send any questions you have. Have a great day, and thanks for joining.